And welcome everybody to another behind the scenes episode of Shadow City Mysteries House of Skye, where we introduce you to yet another player amongst our crew. So please welcome Ariel Kasten. Ariel, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Ariel. I'm an actor, a role player, a musician, a podcaster, you name it. I have far too many hobbies.
Hobbies or careers?
My acting is a career. My music is a career.
Yeah.
So like
exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. It is sometimes hard to sell that to people, but I appreciate that.
I'm sold. So
thank you. Yeah. Yes. Okay, fine. I have far too many interests. How's that?
All right, that's fine. Yeah. And where can folks find you on the internet? So let's get that out of the way because I'll always forget it at the end.
You can find me on the internet on most social media platforms at Ariel Kasten, Kasten, no spaces or dashes or anything like that. I'm also on the Large Nerdron Potter. I can't even say it right. On the Large Nerdron Collider podcast. So awesome.
All right. Very cool. What's your history with tabletop RPGs or role-playing games in general?
So I came to role-playing through LARP. I was a part of a outdoor Shakespeare company, and one of my co-actors LARPed and said, "Hey, come join me." So I built a character for Wildlands South, which is where we met.
Oh yeah.
And through that, I joined the LARP community and dived headfirst in, and then through that got invited to a bunch of RPGs and tabletop RPGs. And then I took a long break, and during the pandemic, a bunch of my friends picked it back up because they needed something to do. So
yeah. Seems to be a common story amongst many of our players.
Yeah.
So do you,
we're all foolish and decide we want to pursue life for a little bit.
Yeah. We're like, what? Not doom and gloom. Let's just live and make believe fun lives. Do you remember your first RPG character?
I do. My first tabletop RPG character was Vodachi Courtesan with 7 Cs.
Oh, okay.
So roll and keep. So when I played my first Dungeons and Dragons official game, switching to like 3.5 edition was really hard for me. But it's much easier now. Like I said, I LARPed first. So my first character I built, and I did not know what I was doing, was for Wildlands South. It was a little roguey fire elf. And then I went to a LARP convention and ended up building a character in 5 minutes for a different LARP and played that one first. So technically that was my first one.
There you go. Little trivia there in case anybody's like, well, it's obviously Wildlands South. And you're like, aha, but it's not.
It was Kingsgate. And that character was annoying, but I played her through the entire campaign.
Multiples, yeah? Yeah. What excites you about role-playing in general?
So I really love collaborative storytelling. It's the same thing I love about acting. But I am not a writer. So if you sit me down in front of, generally, I can write, but it takes me a long time. I'll stare at a blank page for like hours. But when you put me in a character and you put me in a situation, then I can riff and I can build in that world and I can help create. And I love being able to do that with other people. And just have that surprise of how everybody interacts with a situation or a place or a person. Yeah. It's really cool.
It is really cool. And what drew you to this actual play project?
So I love Noir, and I always have since I was a kid. Like Dick Tracy, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I will argue till my dying day with anybody, is a noir.
It is noir, yeah.
Stuff like the Maltese Falcon radio shows and things like that. I was an old soul as a child. So I love the genre. And then you're awesome. And so the idea of getting to do this with you was definitely a selling point. So I think that's the most exciting thing for me.
Oh, appreciate that. Well, and then touching on Noir. So how do you think, because obviously we haven't had our first session yet, but how do you think so far from what you've seen, how does playing in a noir setting feel different from other genres you played?
I think it encourages you to lean a little bit more into the melodrama. And for me, that just helps with inhibitions, I guess. you're allowed to be a tiny bit extra, which means you aren't necessarily judging everything that you do. I tend to overthink, so that can be a problem for me. So that's exciting, and just the ability to like put in some technology and some references that you don't normally get in like a standard fantasy game is really cool.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you've only kind of created the character and kind of did a little bit of feeling out of the character in your in the city building. But do you see yourself in your character, or are they very different from you?
I mean, I'm certainly not one. I can't play a stringed instrument. That's the least exciting thing about my character. You know, I'm not an infiltrator or a spy in real life. I tend to be a pretty nice person, but
that's what a spy will tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Don't spoil it for me. But you know, it feels like a cheesy answer, but you have to find yourself in every character you play, whether it's a tabletop or acting or anything like that, because that way you have genuine reactions and emotions. There's so many times I hear people say, "Oh, I built this character, but they ended up nothing like I expected." And I love that there's room for that discovery, but also if you find places you relate to your character, then you stay a lot closer to that initial idea. For me, I am a musician. My character's a musician. I do gig work. My character does gig work. And then a really big thing is that, you know, she has this public face that she puts on that's more likable and charismatic. And then she has this infiltrator side of herself where, you know, she does these more sneaky things. And as a slightly socially anxious, slightly introverted actor, I have the same thing. The amount of times that people have been like, "Oh, but you're an actor. You love the public face. You're so this or that." And I'm like, that's the public me that I put out there.
Sure, that's the mask.
Right? Yeah. I mean, and it is still a part of me, but it's not how I normally function. And so on that level, like, I super relate to her.
Got it. That's pretty cool. So delving a little bit deeper to your character, and you mentioned Infiltrator. So why did you pick the class you picked for your character?
I think I actually started it. Well, first of all, when I read the materials, I had like 20 character ideas because I think Shadow City Mysteries is a very cool world and setting, and you guys have done a lot of cool stuff with it. So I just wanted to explore it all. But as we were sitting at the table with everyone and kind of talking about everybody's ideas, it felt like nobody really had, I feel like you can't have a noir without having like a smoky club vibe area thing to it. And nobody was really like jumping into that world. And so I wanted to jump into that world. And it felt like Infiltrator was just the right touch. Yeah. The right touch. I've played a lot of bards and I've played a lot of barbarians in my D&D life. So I was trying not to do that again, but now I'm kind of just splitting the difference and doing a little bit of it all.
Little mix. Yeah. And then what about the faction? You chose something again unique to the group. So the Brass Consortium, right? So.
Yeah. Again, the Brass Consortium. It is hard to separate my characters from my creative self. So that's a little bit of self-service there. But also, again, we had a couple of people who had like face ideas. And I know that we talked about not being a super combat heavy story. So I was like, maybe heavy isn't the right direction. And I do that so often. It's too easy. But I felt like nobody was really talking about the Brass Consortium side of things. And whereas that's something that I'm personally actually passionate about, the arts and the creative, and also service. I'm a very service oriented person. So it just felt like a really good fit.
No, it is. And so I'm glad you picked it. I mean, we have a pretty good mix. I think the only group that didn't get any love is the Iron Union, but that's all right. They'll still get some screen time
for sure.
If your character, now going to your character Reggie, right? If Reggie had a signature drink, what would it be?
Whatever somebody's buying her. No, I do have an actual answer.
Okay. That's a good answer. I mean, I wouldn't question it.
Yeah. Okay. So if it was on her own dime, she would do a gin Rickey. It's like a gin club soda lime drink. I'm only, as a actual person, just starting to get into gin as a liquor. I tend to be more of a whiskey person in real life, but gin was super like, I know this game doesn't necessarily have prohibition, but it was super prevalent during the prohibition era. It was relatively cheap. Well,
it's an autocracy. It is an autocracy. At some point in time, I think there probably was a little bit of tried prohibition, and then that was just a failed experiment. But
fair.
Yeah.
But it was a readily. I wanted to do something that actually nodded to like that era, so it was a readily available alcohol, and it's also something that, as an infiltrator, if Reggie needs to have a clear head, nobody's going to know if you don't put the gin in. If you order a highball that's whiskey and soda water, which just sounds disgusting to me. Sorry to anybody who likes that. And you don't put the whiskey in, someone's going to notice. But
yeah. You'll put the gin in, they don't notice.
Yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And then would you say Reggie is more of a planner or improviser?
I think she's an outliner. Like, you want to have a little bit of an idea of what you're doing, but you also, like, she knows that the best laid plans, right? They always go awry. So you have to be ready to pivot and adjust and like, so bullet points.
Bullet points. I like that. I like that answer. Yeah. I was like, outliner. Oh, now I get it. Yeah, I like that. No, I like that.
Yeah. I mean, she's definitely, if we're going by character sheet, she's definitely more street smart than book smart. So yeah, just an outline, like an idea, and then go.
All right. Excellent. And if your character had to pick a theme song, what would it be? The start, before obviously the abuses of the campaign happened and so forth. Like, what would be going in? What are you thinking Reggie's theme song is?
The delights of the campaign. I've abused her a lot in the past. The moment that you were like, there's probably some sort of tragic parent backstory, my brain just went wild. So the current front runner, I've actually been like building a playlist because I'm like, this song, no, that's not quite right. No, this song, like Smooth Criminal. There's a 2-cello version of Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson.
I've heard that one.
Not quite right. Yeah, but it's a great song. Right now, actually, the most appropriate song is one of my bandmates sings a jazzy version of Ain't No Rest for the Wicked. But we don't have that recorded. So I wanted to pick something that it like people exists in fullness. Yeah. So Rebecca Backen does a really great jazzy version of Red Right Hand by Nick Cave. And it's just, it's got a little bit of that like mystery and shadows and all that in there.
That works because we are Shadow City Mysteries. So there you go. Yeah. Well, before we dive into a typical day of Reggie, for those just kind of tuning in and getting to learn about Shadow City Mysteries, I feel it's important that I give a little bit of background into color, or the lack of color in our world, because we referenced it's a noir setting, but one of the key points about the world is that there is no color. In fact, it's been centuries since color left the world. The church teaches that the death of color was the final curse of the goddess of darkness upon her defeat by the gods of light. It lingers as a sign to be ever vigilant against the lure of evil. What else could be lost if the gods must intervene again on so grand a scale? People of science claim it's something strange about how light refracts in the atmosphere, and one day they hope that rocketry and photography improve to the point that they can confirm whether color can still be seen from space. Neither can truly explain why some things, the high-tech and the mystical, still show in color. The day-to-day life of citizens of the world is one of monochromatic. Pops of color from Turnstone-infused objects draw every eye in appreciation, while color, where no tech should be, breeds fear of arcane threats, hidden beneath the popular veneer of science. And then you're a member of the Brass Consortium, and so you have a Clockwork prosthetic arm. And how that works and why we refer to our main product, the Shadow City Mysteries of Clockwork Noir, is that clockwork is very common, a little bit of steampunk in our world, right? But clockwork punk, I guess. So not long after the War of the Gods came the discovery of Solargeum, commonly just called Turnstone. This semi-hard rock is permanently oriented to face the sun, revolving once every 24 hours and grinding itself into smooth sand rather than allow any force to stop its turning. Initially, it was something of a curiosity. Shards of it could be used to unerringly tell time, and a big enough slice could power a mill. But under any significant load, such as gearing the transform of 24-hour rotation into a faster one, the rock tends to pulverize itself against the metal. The Industrial Revolution came when scientists figured out two key tricks: blending and infusing the turnstone dust into harder metals, and a semi-mystical trick of using mirrored plates to allow it to rotate along any reference point. Power was now reliable, portable, and endless. Turnstone's only limitation is the science of metallurgy. Increasingly small, intricate, or powerful devices put strain on the gearing that requires increasingly durable metals to house the solar geom. Power never runs out, but gears can strip out. Every year, the world's scientists and engineers make breakthroughs in what Clockwork is capable of. Other sciences, such as chemistry, have lagged from what might be expected in an early modern society due to the sheer ease of making discoveries of new applications for clockwork. Society has automobiles, electricity, clockwork-wound weapons, and even intricate cybernetic prosthetics and automatons made of countless tiny gears. One of the properties of Turnstone that scientists can use but not explain is that it responds to human will. A prosthetic arm or leg powered by solar geom works as well or better than the original. No clear reason for the interface with human nerves. The real problem with Turnstone is that it's needed for everything. Having long exhausted its own reserves of minerals, the globe's sole superpower, Vesipon, embarks on wars across the planet with increasingly thin pretexts in order to open up new mines for the material. And so now we go to the city of Serena, most commonly referred to as Shadow City. So tell us, what does the typical day of Reggie look like?
All right. Well, I wake up in the morning later than I mean to, but to be honest, that's completely normal for me. I'm still I'm still nursing a hangover from Sunday night. Nobody respectably gets drunk on Monday night, but I really tried hard on Sunday, so it's sticking around. And I lay in bed and I watch dust particles float through the like one sunbeam I get in the small window of my tiny studio of apartment, trying to muster up the will to like just leave bed and get going on my day, which I do because I have to. And today I am covering for Tommel, the stand-up bassist in the house band of the Pendulum Club. He's being kicked out of his house again. No surprise. And so he won't be making the set. So I get dolled up and I slap on some makeup and a smile. And I go play a few hours of passable jazz tunes. And when that's done, I pack up my stuff and I grab a drink and I sit around the bar, like you do, eavesdropping and trying to find whispers of like some Moonlight job opportunity type things, the stuff that people tend to try to keep quiet, but I don't want them to keep quiet from me. Mm-hmm. And it's Tuesday night, and usually the city's not wound up enough for a lot of real trouble on Tuesday night. So if that turns up dry, I go to a couple other bars. And if those also turn up dry, as Tuesday nights sometimes do, I will head down to Slag's Stadia to try to get in a fight, to just breathe some sort of life into my day.
Well, before you actually step into a fight or have a moment to, you have one of the bookies at the at Stadia, Stag Stadia, comes over to you and says, "Hey Reggie, how's your night going?"
Like Tuesday nights usually do. Yours?
Yeah, no, it's been slow, but there was some people asking about you. They were looking to see what the odds are for you tonight, but I said I hadn't seen you yet, so I didn't think there would be any fights for you. But they're still around.
Oh, okay. So they're just looking for odds for like the odds on me fighting, or?
Well, they were asking about you, but I think they were just making small talk and saying what needed to be said to not try too much, suspicion on him. But
Gotcha. Well, I'm happy to talk. I'm a little light on things to do, so always glad to meet somebody.
sure, they're over in that corner over that way. Can't miss them. Real big fella, and very pale person with a tiny hat. So
that is a fashion choice. I look over.
Yeah, you look over to the corner area. It's an interesting pick for the place. It's obviously that they have good view of the Stadia, but I mean, you actually you can have eyes on them, but it seems like from a vantage point, it's pretty good. Probably where you would have picked to kind of like sit and watch the room. So,
I appreciate that, because sometimes when people are looking for you, they don't make the wisest decisions, and then you have to cover your own butt because of something they've done. So already a good sign.
Yeah. So if you'd like, you could now you've kind of locked eyes a little bit, or not locked eyes, but like you've seen them now. If you'd like to make a perception roll, you can.
I would love to do that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So, all right. So with a 14 perception, you see in the corner, seated at Stags doesn't have the greatest tables or anything, but they're making do with the table that they're at. See a pale figure draped in fine kimono style silks paired with perfectly pressed trousers. They sit with a parasol in one hand, kind of leaned against the table, and a tiny stylish hat perched just so atop their head, as was commented on by the Bookie. Their watchful eyes are taking in every detail of the Stadia. Next to them, standing quite pronouncedly, is a tall man in sleeveless button-up shirt and suspenders. His frame is made broader by the unnatural size of his arms. He has slightly larger than normal prosthetic arms. He has a bowler hat that shades part of his face. And you see the glint of mechanical jaw work that's unmistakable. So his lower skull is actually is mechanical. His clothes are pressed and spotless. His shoes are polished to a mirror shine. And he carries himself with the posture of a soldier and the silence of a watchman. And you notice that he has some kind of symbol on his suspender, and the person sitting has a symbol on their lapel, the matching symbol.
Okay.
And then and then you also notice that up in the rafters is a very large molted feather raven. And you notice that the raven has one cataract clouded eye that gives you a strange look. And its gaze feels oddly fixed, sharper than most birds. And for the large man, you note again, his jaw is mechanical and his arms are oversized. His prosthetics are unusually clean and muted. They're not brass or iron, which is common to the city. But you catch faint markings etched into the metal, like possibly military symbols, though not immediately identifiable. You could roll history to maybe identify them a little better.
I could roll history, but I doubt it would do very much.
Well, I mean, you never know,
Sure, let's give it a shot. Well,
yeah, that's so bad. Yeah, so with the 14 in history, you notice that the insignia is Vesiponian military in origin, most likely Navy. And you also recall that there were some rumors of a man dishonorably discharged under mysterious circumstances that might match this person. And you think that person's name was like Hens or Herb, Hans maybe. And then regarding the pale person, you have you notice that they have pale skin and again that small little fashionable hat. Their they have immaculate clothing, and they're very, very well dressed. And each of the pieces, even the parasol, is more deliberate than decorative. All their choices of clothing and everything. And you notice that their movements are very controlled. Like every gesture they make is purposeful. So.
Are they doing anything particular at the table, or are they just sort of watching out, keeping an eye out for me?
To be honest, they're keeping an eye out, but they're just more like they're watching the fights that are going on. Mm-hmm. The larger man seems to be enjoying that more than the person sitting at the table. But overall, they seem pretty like they're there for a reason. It appears.
Okay. My initial, I think I would like to, if it's possible, mm-hmm. do a fight to give them an excuse to talk to me, just in case they are trying to be a little bit more subtle about it.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, if you could go over to the bookie and say you're looking for a fight, and the fights happen really relatively quickly. Nothing really drags out. Especially on a Tuesday. Yeah. It's not like the creme de la creme are swinging in the
people haven't wound up quite enough yet, and they also have jobs to get to.
Yeah. He finds you someone suitable, but he says, honestly, Reggie, there's nobody in your class here tonight. So go, if you want to put on a show, but go easy on him. Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah. So, in this situation, normally we would go to combat, but in this situation, we'll just say that it's a fight where you could basically, if you want, you have performance, right? I think you could.
I do. Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead and
roll performance.
Yeah.
I definitely do pull my punches, so it's maybe not as impressive as I wanted.
Yeah. No, it's still it's a show. I mean, again, it's the crowd for the most part is just happy to see something going on. And again, folks recognize you and know who you are, so they're it's a point of interest for all of them. You could see the bookie cut. Not super. I mean, he's happy, but not so happy. It seems like most people were betting on you, so being the odds-on favorite there. But people were paying out, though. He does seem to have to pull out a larger role when he goes over to the table where the people that he mentioned are sitting at, and hands a very large wad of money to the person with the tiny hat and the parasol who takes it and puts it into a small satchel. So
okay. All right. Well, if they don't come up to me, then I will saunter over their way.
Yeah, they don't make a move. They kind of, but they do make eye contact, and they kind of nod to you in like respect, and then kind of like, do like a little wave.
Right.
Yeah. Not the large man. The large man just looks odd. So just looks large. Yeah.
Hey, you were looking for me?
Yes. Regina Wrenne, or should I say Reggie?
I prefer Reggie.
Yes. You've lived under another name, but your blood carries the one that matters. House Skye has returned, and you are called to take your place among it.
House Skye?
Yes, you could deny the name, but you cannot deny the blood. The estate does not summon strangers. It summons its own. And then the large man says, Skye Estate. At week's end, there will be others.
Okay. What? Do you mind sharing why I and these others are being summoned?
Yes, because Esten Skye lives. With him comes the return of legacy, and legacy demands every thread of its bloodline, no matter how far it may have been scattered.
Reggie she's never really, her parents never really talked about him, but it's not a super secret. So I'm going to assume that rings a bell. once you
Yeah,
hear
no,
it.
definitely. I mean, yeah, everything. You've heard the name. You know that there's a connection there.
Yeah.
So this is not, unlike others. This is not so much of a surprise to
Yeah.
you. Like,
and you're sure that I'm being called, because last I heard, my grandfather wanted nothing to do with me or my parents.
Well, and then she produces a folded black card with a sky crest pressed in burnished gold. It's the same crest that you see on their lapel and on the suspenders of the large man. You assume has a name like Hens or Hans or whatever. And they place it before you as one would present proof of identity. And it says, by will of Esten Skye, your presence is required at the Skye estate at week's end. Attend and take your place at what comes next.
All right. Well, thank you for passing this along, and I'll take the invitation.
Congratulations, Reggie. You have just been handed your ticket to a whole new life. Whatever name you have carried until now, the Skye name carries you further. Accept, and you will step into a life far larger than you imagined. And with that, they stand up.
Okay.
They tap their parasol with a soft click, and they kind of walk away. And you can still say something before they leave, and then Hans lingers and just kind of stays fixated on you with steady weight.
You can go too,
He continues and follows behind them, and then you hear up in the rafters a croak before the large raven wings itself away further into the rafters.
That's definitely unusual for a raven, correct?
Yeah, well, maybe you could roll animal handling. You could roll arcana. You could roll religion if you like.
Let's do animal handling, just because I'm not used
or nature even. Like, again, depending if what do you have, I don't know. Sure. So
let's do animal handling.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
I'm not used to seeing animals in this area, and I probably have to deal with like vermin in my apartment. So
okay, not bad. So the raven is unusually still for a raven and it doesn't. And there is food and things around the Stadia, and it seems to ignore things like it would typically coax an animal into doing certain things.
Okay.
And when you did you did notice it reacted subtly to both the large man and the person with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But just as a note, it's not unusual for ravens to be in Soretta.
I just figured inside the Stadia.
Well, so birds do have a knack. None of the buildings are really built all that well.
Okay.
To the Stadia. I mean, so getting in through the rafters and everything else is not impossible.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
I mean, you could do Arcana or Insight, or
let's do some Insight. Yeah.
All right. Oh, whoa, that's a nat, right? All right.
Mm-hmm.
So the we'll count it across the board. So the raven appeared to be studying everyone nearby, and it tended to kind of mirror the body language of the two people it was with.
Okay.
And it had a gaze that kind of lingered in a way that was purposeful, and it seemed to be evaluating, as if like measuring the environment and the people within it. And it actually didn't really come up. It turns out it probably wasn't even observation. It seemed more like judgment. Like it was actively thinking. Now, regarding the larger man, he carried himself, again, like I said, the bearing of a soldier or a watchman. And their silence and posture suggested that they were constantly measuring threats around the Stadia. However, something you did notice is that their eyes betrayed for a moment softness, like a trace of gentleness that was definitely at conflict with their hard exterior. And that most likely their stern demeanor most likely is a deliberate mask protecting them from something. And whatever his it seems though that he's there not just in a professional manner, but what his duty is very something personal to him.
I feel a little bad for being so dismissive to him.
And
telling him
then
to hit the bricks.
Now, the individual that was with them, the tiny hat, their politeness feels measured rather than natural, as if every word is chosen with care. Though it does seem that their loyalty is genuine, but you're not 100% sure if it's to the person or to the family.
Gotcha.
And their stillness is very deliberate, and they seem to have like a neutrality that's cultivated. So as if like not tied to faction or faith. And they have a very, like, again, it seems that underneath that calm exterior, you glimpse a little bit of quiet fatigue of, decades spent doing the work that they've done.
I understand a quiet fatigue for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got some time to spend
Before week's end.
Before week's end. Mostly, I think I would go back to regular life because I don't know how this thing is going to turn out. Right? It still feels a little odd to me. So I certainly would go about trying to get my jobs, doing my gig, all that stuff.
Your gigs go as per normal. The week is per normal. The only thing that was out of the ordinary was these people showing up and inviting you to some relatively stranger home out in the middle of nowhere.
I'm just gonna keep an eye out for them throughout the week, though, just to see. If they
I understood. Nothing unusual. You don't see any strange ravens. Any they don't pop up. You don't see anybody tailing you. I mean, you use all your skills as an infiltrator to kind of counter infiltrate. Doesn't seem to be. It seems that they were there to deliver a message, and that was done.
Right.
But yeah. So once Friday does come upon you, let's see the best way. There we are. Boop. So the Stag Stadia is here where you normally spend time. Lowlanders over here. Pendulum Clubs somewhere up this way. But way out here in the middle of nowhere is where you have to go on a Friday. So there's no trains that make it all the way out that way, but they get you pretty close. You have to take private transportation otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the question would be, do you arrive early, on time, or fashionably late?
I guess the big question for me there is you might have said, and it went in one ear and out the other, but what time of day is this meeting?
In the evening.
In evening. I'm going to show up right on time in this case.
Okay. Right on time. So you get dropped off. Another question. Do you get dropped off right outside the estate, a little bit ways down the road, and walk your way over that way? Or
no, I definitely get dropped off a little way down the road and walk that way.
All right, sure. Just trying to gauge where everybody is at the beginning of the. So as you get dropped on your way in through Silverwood, there's lots of beautiful estates, but there are none as grand formerly as grand as the Skye Estate. The Skye Estate does cover a larger portion of land than most of the other estates. However, it does appear that years of deterioration and not being taken care of is kind of, I won't say ruined, but it's definitely not at the esteem that it once was. And so the estate itself is lit only in the front middle area of the estate. The rest of it is dark and looks uninhabited, which is saying something because, as we mentioned earlier, there is unlimited power. So if they wanted to light the whole thing, they could.
Yeah.
But
That's not
generally,
creepy at all.
generally they only do so because it's not abandoned, but not in use, and so they don't do it. If you'd like, you could roll perception again.
Yes, I was going to ask that because I don't like unfamiliar shadows as much.
Yeah. So the things that you notice about the estate is while the rest of the estate does look overgrown and not well kept, it does look like there's been some recent work to the front area of the house, the estate, and then it's been like refurbished slightly, but still in a process. The one thing else to note is that the walls have been refurbished and fixed. So those look almost brand new, or at least improved from what the rest of the state of decay of this facility looks like. The front gate is a beautiful, like, iron gate that obviously has turnstone in it, because why not use one of the most expensive materials in the world for your gate? And so that's all there. And you also do notice that what probably looks to be like housing, or at least like the living quarters part of the estate, the lights do seem to be turned on. But again, there's still lots of like cloth thrown over things. There are obvious boxes, things being delivered. There's scaffolding around, but again, not what you would not the amount that you would expect for like a full restoration, right? It looks like it's kind of piecemealed work has been done so far. Yeah.
Do I see anybody else lingering around?
Getting there on time, you do see a lot of people all kind of lingering about, waiting as if they all got there super early to like scout out the place. So you're kind of walking in on a bunch of people walking in on each other at this point. So and then I guess, but before we go any further with that, is there any other observations you'd like to make before we?
I guess, how big, you said the living quarters were lit up. How big is that? Like, would I assume that Esten has a bunch of people living in his house working for him, with him, or does it feel like it's just his one little lone self?
No, it feels like, well, okay, it's a mix between. It looks like there are a number of nice bedrooms that are set up, and there are a number of probably like servant quarters areas, but not to the level that you would think would be needed to fully maintain and work this kind of establishment. You haven't played private parties and seen these places, like they have an elaborate number of staff usually. This does not look like there's an elaborate number of staff, but it does not look like it's one old crazy dude living in a shack out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
If your shack is a multi-million-dollar estate, but yeah. So,
yeah. Any cataract-eyed ravens in the trees?
No, not in the not out in the open or anything like that. No.
Okay.
No. So
I think I would go in, but just kind of hang back and watch the other people who got there super early and are milling about and waiting.
Fair enough. And with that, we will fade to black and pick back up on October 7th, when we have our first session. So October 7th, 9 p.m. Eastern time, on Twitch or YouTube, most likely wherever you're watching this right now. And so thank you very much, Ariel. Always a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of mischief Reggie gets into.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing that too.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.